Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay, hi. I think I sound a little stuffed up and things, so excuse me if my voice sounds even worse than normal. Hello, another beautiful morning. Ho-hum! Another beautiful morning. It's August 2nd, and it's a Friday. Yeehaw. Just me today. No one for me to scream at. Okay, so I don't know. The news is never good, so I really don't want to talk about it much. Few little things I found that are easy enough. Actually, this is one Chris Potter found, which is cute. Jess just drew it to my attention. The dueling ads for the two healthcare giants in the region, UPMC's ads and Highmark's ads. Or what, Highmark, it's really, or the Allegheny Health Network, is that what it's called? What's the other big giant? Allegheny Health Network, I think.
Sounds right.
That sounds right. Who the hell knows? But that's like Highmark. And the two of them are both spending unbelievable amounts of money on advertising to demonize the other and to suggest that the other is responsible for this pretty pass we've come to. And both have ads in which people are sitting in diners. That's so funny. So I haven't seen the Highmark one on the diners. I think maybe that is the one I saw. I don't know what I saw. I mean, it all just sounds like background noise to me. But Potter, on being the hard-hitting journalist he is, really started scrutinizing these ads. And he has uncovered the fact that UPMC's Pittsburgh diner ad, where a bunch of locals are sitting around decrying Highmark, I guess, in their case, was shot in Columbus, Ohio. Like there ain't any diners here? I know a lot of diners here. No, they took their money and went to Ohio, and if you look closely, at some of the stuff on the walls, you got, Ohio State stuff touting Ohio State University. Never mind that UPMC is University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. In case you've forgotten what UPMC stands for. University of Pittsburgh. So, if you want to laugh and see a lot of evidence that Potter has come up with, check out his blog at citypaper.com. Huh? You'll put it on my Facebook? So Potter then, of course, aiming to be fair and balanced, also attempted through microscopic scrutiny to ascertain where the Highmark diner spot was shot. And yes, indeedy, it's shot genuinely in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the Strip District at a place called Kelly O's. So there you have it, round one, according to Potter, to Highmark for at least shooting its supposed Pittsburgh diner spot in a Pittsburgh diner. You know, it's gotten so silly that this is the kind of reportage I think that is right on the money. Ridiculous, ridiculing, and ridiculous. I saw a headline that just blew me away. It says this: geography team puts USA on the map. And then U.S. team outsmarts world in geography B. Now, you will understand why I'm just dumbfounded by this, because I have always maintained that Americans are geographically illiterate. And I am a representative that even educated Americans don't seem to know much, if anything, about geography. Americans are hard-pressed to locate any country on a map, let alone things like rivers and natural resources that those countries might have and or goods produced. Geography takes in a lot of stuff, bodies, all of it. So Americans are really lousy at it, and I've said the only way Americans ever learn any geography is when we invade a country or go to war. No Americans could tell you where Iraq was or Afghanistan was, or Vietnam was, or heaven forbid, Grenada, until we sent troops in, and then we see like graphics, and we start thinking, oh, so that's where that is, and you get a vague idea. We just aren't very good at it. Okay, I was thinking that I've been reading. I digress just a moment now. I was reading how if you want to sort of stave off dementia, that you have to exercise your brain, and that it is not really exercising your brain to do something which your brain is very adept at. The thing to do is to choose something that taxes your brain. So somebody like me who does crossword puzzles constantly and thinks that that's helping me keep sharp, well, I'm wrong about that, because I've gotten very, very good at crossword puzzles. That's not enough of a challenge. So what I should do is something that really is challenging. I should probably do something with numbers like Sudoku, because I'm an idiot when it comes to numbers. But I had this thought the other day, and it had to do with geography. I thought, remember when you were in middle school, you memorized all the countries of Africa. I could pinpoint every single one of them and capitals. And I knew stuff about them. I was really into it for some reason. And the map of Africa has changed quite a bit since then. Although obviously a lot of countries are still where they are, or they've had name changes. And I was thinking, you know what you should do? Memorize all the countries in Africa again. Get them down again. That would be the kind of exercise that would help my head stay supple. So when I saw U.S. team outsmarts world in geography B, I thought, this unbelievable. It can't be. A bunch of Americans wanted geography B, and they did. beat out 17 other countries in Russia, in St. Petersburg. And then I saw a picture of the team. And this is going to sound racist.
Asians.
Did you? Did you hear what Jess said? I said so you can recollect, this is going to sound racist. And Jess looks over at me and says, Asians? Well, Indians, yeah. Okay. Indians. It's like, yeah, not any blonde-haired, blue-eyed Americans on that team. No. Oh, no. I'll give you their names, and that'll seal it for you. The names of the winners. And they're young. They're 13, 14, and 15. Wow. And their names are Gopi Ramanathan, Asha Jain, and Neelam Sandhu. And they hail from Minnesota, Wisconsin, and New Hampshire. And they were three of the big winners of the American Geography Bee. I love to see the top 10. And actually, often when it comes to spelling bees, you get a lot of Asians, too, right? Okay, so why is that? Now, I'm assuming these kids are all native-born Americans, that they are American by birth. But I'm going to make an assumption that their parents and or grandparents maybe were immigrants. Immigrant generations, the second generation of immigrants, recent immigrants to America, invariably still are just, they're going gangbusters. They're living the dream. They are excelling in every way that they can, and you can tell when a group has been around for a while, they become as sort of lethargic as most regular, ordinary old Americans. That's when you've got a few generations under your belt, right? So there you have it. Yeah, U.S. wins the Geography Bee. Yeah, and it's our we fielded a team of darker-skinned Americans, and that's how we win the Geography Bee. Is maybe Indians? I mean, is that culture just more into geography? I wonder. I mean, obviously some cultures stress learning and achievement in learning more than others do, but I could not believe that. That is funny. Okay, let's see what we got here. Unemployment has fallen a little more in the U.S. We added 162,000 jobs in July. And that is the 34th straight month in which jobs have been created. So that's the good news. The bad news, of course, is that this is happening still very, very slowly. And I'm going to blame that on Republicans. Okay, here's something from a few days ago when we talked about the new book about Jesus called Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus of Nazareth. The author of that was on Fox News, and this is how most of us found out about the book. And because during a Fox News interview, the author, who is a renowned religious scholar, was badgered by the Fox interviewer, not about the book per se, but about his gall in writing it, apparently, because he's not Christian. How dare you be a scholar of religious, of the Bible and not be a Christian? So this guy's name is Reza Aslan, and I bring it up because I came upon a review of it this morning, and it fascinated me. I got to read this book, or at least go see him when he comes to speak here. He's coming to speak at the World Affairs Council here next month. So here's what it says. See, what this guy does, he's a scholar, so he deals with facts, things that are known. And he's looking at the historical Jesus. And you got a lot to work with, believe it or not, when you're doing that. You have archaeology, you have known history, you have the Gospels, you have the understanding of contemporary accounts. So there are contemporaneous writings from around that time that help get a feel for the time and place of Israel at that point. And this man who writes the book is somebody who is steeped in the Bible and the Gospels and the archaeology of the known archaeology of the time. And so he weaves that all together. There's a synthesis, and he comes up with what Jesus of Nazareth would be. Who would he be? And he debunks a lot of stuff that that are anybody who, I guess, is a scholar knows, but the rest of the world is just adamant in refusing to accept, because a religion grows out of something, and a religion has its story. And when parts of that story are found to be historically inaccurate, the odds that that inaccuracy will be acknowledged are not great. Not great. So he quite clearly says the idea that Jesus was born in Bethlehem is, in a word, preposterous. Who knew? See, who knew? I mean, that's something we just, of course, what do you mean he wasn't born in Bethlehem? Away in a manger. Come on, how you can't say, but I mean, I don't have the book here, but the reviewer seems to completely accept it too. And he says that although a census was indeed taken in the year 6 BCE in Judea, there is no way that the way the Romans would have done that census was to have people return to the place of their birth to be counted. That's the story we've always heard, right? Everybody had to go back to where they started for the census. Can you imagine? I mean, people running everywhere to be counted. He says the Romans, if there's anything that is known about the Romans and its empire, one of the reasons they had an empire is they were masters of efficiency. There is no way that they would have conducted a census in that ludicrous manner, he says. He says these things are, if you're a scholar, they're provable falsehoods. But again, it doesn't matter, does it? You can prove these things. It's the story that's important. It's the agreed upon story, the fact of it. We're talking about a faith. So I guess it doesn't matter. Although for people of faith who are also intellectually curious and who are, yes, believers, I would think they would want the real story. The real story. So anyway, he says it's preposterous he was born in Bethlehem. There's no way the Romans would have carried out that census the way we've been told. And anybody who attempts to separate out the historical truths from what have come to be now, much closely held untruths or fictions behind what is inarguably the world's most famous man, you're going to get a lot of blowback. So the people on Fox, all they were focusing on is how dare you? How dare you spend a lifetime studying our God? And here's the one that blew me away. It was unlikely, he says, that Jesus could either read or write. Now, is there anything where he reads or writes anything in the Bible, the New Testament? I can't think of one. And but you don't think of him as illiterate. And this guy says, it's conceivable he was not, but given his time and who he was and where he was born and all that stuff, the odds are great that he could not read or write. That blew me away. And here's the thing where he stands everything on its head. He says Jesus was actually a disciple of John the Baptist. And that if you were to really look, it's John the Baptist who Jesus took over for. Now, granted, I am just talking about what's here in this review, and I have never read the New Testament. Never. So I don't know from nothing. He says, and I've never heard this. This is fascinating to me. He says Jesus was a follower of John, and he took over John's ministry when John the Baptist was executed. And again, he does this in a very careful, scholarly manner. He shows how each succeeding gospel, chronologically, each gospel further loses John, further plays down John the Baptist, because he has to be sort of written out in some ways if Jesus is to ascend, literally. So that is in part what the Gospels are doing, is in an effort to establish Jesus's divine status. He says the fact is Jesus's followers didn't follow Jesus until after John was arrested. So he had no followers himself until the arrest of John the Baptist. And it was John the Baptist who first spoke of the kingdom of God. Jesus even picks up whole hunks of John the Baptist's verbiage and says the same things he does. John the Baptist had called his enemies, where is it? You brood of vipers, John the Baptist had said. Jesus uses that exact term. So this book, Zealot, is about the fact that Jesus takes over for John the Baptist, solidifies his movement, and expands it into a movement of liberation for the afflicted and oppressed, and founded on the promise that God would soon intervene. Jesus denies his divinity constantly, but his followers begin to tout it. I find this just fascinating. Quickly, one other thing. It says in the review that one of the greatest challenges of anybody researching this biblical period is separating the lies which have been inserted because at the time they were inserted, they were expedient. Now, many books have been written about this. Which Gospels were lost? Which Gospels rose? They were telling different stories. Some stories got the stamp of approval. And, of course, this is hundreds and hundreds of years after Jesus is gone from the earth. He points out that the writers of the Gospels, many of whom never met Jesus, were the ones touting his divinity when the historical Jesus really did reject the title of Messiah. He calls himself the Son of Man. So apparently, he focuses in the closing chapters on how after Jesus' death, the religion began to, who picked it up from there. So he would say John the Baptist hands it off to Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth, upon his death, his brother James. How come I didn't know Jesus had a brother? You didn't know Jesus had a brother? How could he have a brother? Says here, Jesus' brother James, after his death, leads a group of followers who obey the Jewish laws and see no conflict whatsoever between being a Jew and a follower of Jesus. They were still Jews for Jesus. Man, I didn't know that Jesus' brother James founded Jews for Jesus. But, and this will come as no surprise to anybody, including me, it is Paul, who himself almost certainly never met Jesus, according to this guy, and a man who had persecuted Jesus' followers. It is Paul who picks up the ball and runs with it. He's the one. He triumphs. He takes his idea of Jesus, a divine incarnation, more God than man, and he takes it to a non-Jewish audience, and the converts start coming and coming. And he says, and it's Paul, then, who essentially begins the modern age. Fascinating. And they say This reviewer says, nothing in Zealot will come as a surprise to anyone who has studied the period in any detail. Obviously, I have not, because I'm surprised constantly. But what's most surprising is that a story so well accepted by scholars can still come as such a shock to the rest of us. And it shows, how, again, what I started out by saying. The facts at this point don't matter. Oh, scholars can write their books and beat their head against a wall and say, hey, this, hey, that. He wasn't born in Bethlehem. He this, he that. He was actually a follower of John the Baptist. You can say that till you're blue in the face. It doesn't matter, really. Okay. I am going to take a bit of a break. I'll return in a minute.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for a look at the campaign finance reports. Plus, Wiz Khalifa, Yes, David Allen Coe, The Space Pimps, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
We will not be an easy target. We will never roll over and let pain plan our day. We will protect our bodies and fight back by moving. We will do our morning laps, walk our dogs around the block, pass up the elevator, and proudly take the stairs. Because arthritis can't beat us if we beat it first. In the fight against arthritis, you need a weapon. What's yours? To learn more, visit us at fightarthritispain.org. This message brought to you by the Arthritis Foundation and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okie doke. Back to my geography stuff. David writes, back when Benghazi was the right-wing freak-out of the day, listen, they're still freaking about Benghazi and the IRS. They have not let go. We've moved on. They have not. Anyway, back when Benghazi was the right-wing freak-out of the day, I printed up a copy of this map. He's got a map. A Mercator map? Is that what they... It's a map, but it doesn't have... It's a map of the continents, doesn't have any of the countries in. It's just blank, but shows the land mass that is our world. And he says, I printed up a copy of this map, and every time I heard someone go nuts over Benghazi, I'd pull it out of my pocket and say, draw an X where Benghazi is. He says not a single person came even close. So then he'd ease up on him and say, okay, what continent is it on? He said again, most of them didn't even know that. Idiots, says David. Well, I know what continent is Africa. And I think I can put the X in the right place. Because we're in northern, way north Africa, up on the Mediterranean. Correcto? Huh? Huh? I believe. Is it on the Mediterranean? Or is it inland? I think it's on the Mediterranean. Mm-hmm. It is? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, in Libya. Yeah, I know. Yeah, on the so there. Yeah, I would get it right, and I'm an idiot. So, but that's just why is that not surprising? That all these people who think if we committed some horrible, the Obama administration committed some horrible crime, why he should be impeached because of what happened in Benghazi, and they don't even have a clue where it is, which again, leads us to another adjective, clueless. Clueless. And when you're that clueless, when you're up in arms about something, and you don't even know where, what, when, you're just having your head filled with the outrage of the moment, and it doesn't. Again, facts don't intrude. No, I really should learn the countries. That's what I'm going to do, I think. Because I'm often surprised. Ecuador is one that surprised me. Some places aren't where you think they are. And maybe you don't even have a clue where they are. All right, this is... I guess speaking of geography, and I had said that most Americans can come close maybe to pointing out where Iraq or Afghanistan are. Although I might be being too kind when I say that. I mean, do you think the same guys who couldn't put next where Benghazi was, do you think they know where Iraq and Iran are? And Afghanistan and all those places that are in the news? You would think. I don't know. I bring it up, though, because I haven't said boo about Iraq in a gazillion years. And I exaggerate only slightly. And I am like most Americans in that regard. We pulled out, so we don't give a crap anymore, right? We went in, however, with great gusto, with great intent, and with God on our side, did we not? Americans overwhelmingly supported this ginned-up, made-up war. We were saving ourselves, right? Is that what we were doing? Can't even remember it. Oh, yeah, weapons of mass destruction. That's right. We were saving ourselves from certain death. And we were bringing democracy to these poor people. Okay, so how long ago was that? Decade ago. More. 11, 12 years ago. Is there a caller? Caller? Hello?
How you doing?
I'm fine.
Like Paul Simon said in this song, all the crap I learned in high school, it's a matter I can think at all. I can't think today. But why clutter my brain up with useless information like you say about the news media? Why would I clutter my brain up with useless information? The average person don't need that information. They just got to go to work and, pay the bills.
But if they don't know, they're easily misled if they don't have a sense of where things are in the world and what's happening in them. Don't you think? I mean, you're easily led when you're uninformed, and you're easily misinformed when you're uninformed.
Well, I agree with that.
Okay, I think and you have a better run country when the people are tuned in. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to disagree with you today.
Okay, then. Goodbye.
Bye. Have a nice one. Okay, so we went into Afghanistan, guns blazing. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We went into Iraq. Well, both are true. We went into Afghanistan, guns blazing, and we went into Iraq, guns blazing. And now we're out of Iraq, but the guns are still blazing there. Those people are... I don't know how many times I said, can we just get out of here and let them have the civil war that we have ensured will occur? Well, it's happening. Have you noticed? No, we don't give a damn anymore. They're killing each other left and right. Iraq. That's the good work we did over there. You know how many people are dead? Then, of course, we have Afghanistan, and a fine job we're doing over there, too. We're trying to get out. we will leave behind a mess there too. And unbelievable amounts of our treasure. And of course, lives. American young men and women who answered the call of their country. And we pay no attention at all, right? Anymore. I don't. I stopped reading the names because there weren't any. There was this really long, because Iraq's over, and then Afghanistan we're handing things over, and we just weren't paying attention. I continued to look, but maybe every once in a while some poor American would still die in Afghanistan. And over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 months, that one here, one there, has mounted up again. So I do this again because we are still at war. There are still Americans dying in Afghanistan. I'm just pointing out the fact that both these wars really, you can't call them victories. But thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people are gone. Here are some more Americans who are gone, whose names I never read, because I had, in my own head, decided it was over. It wasn't. I'm not sure if this number is correct, but I think it is. The Department of Defense has now identified 2,241 American service members who have died since the start of the Afghan war. These are the most recent confirmed deaths. Stephen M. New, 29 years old, Sergeant, Army, Bartlett, Tennessee. Nicholas Burley, 22, Specialist, Army, Red Bluff, California. Christopher Drake, 20, Specialist, Army, Tickfaw, Louisiana. Justin Rogers, 25, Sergeant, Army, Barton, New York. Ember Alt, 21, Specialist, Army, Beach Island, South Carolina. Robert Ellis, 21, Specialist, Army, Kennewick, Washington. Corey Garver, 26, Sergeant, Army, Topsham, Maine. Justin Johnson, 25, Sergeant, Army, Hobe Sound, Florida. William Moody, 30, Specialist, Army, Burleson, Texas. Javier Sanchez Jr., 28, Specialist, Army, Greenfield, California. Eric Lawson, 30, Sergeant, Army, Stockbridge, Georgia. Karen Nuve, 29, Specialist, Army, Newport News, Virginia. Joe Nunez Rodriguez, 29, Staff Sergeant, Army, Pasadena, Texas. Ray Ramirez, 20, Specialist, Army, Sacramento. Mariano Raimundo, 21, Private, Army, Houston. Kyle Stokely, 21, Specialist, Army, Moseley, Virginia. Sean Mullen, 39, Warrant Officer, Army, Dover, Delaware. Jesse Thomas Jr., 31, Staff Sergeant, Army, Pensacola, Florida.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, great deals on gift cards to Seba, Cadillac Ranch, and Luke Woolley's. Supplies are limited. Bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. Bergbargains.com.
Oh! You are round MVP.
Yeah, man. Yo, Drew, I finally got round MVP. Round MVP.
No way. That was some ownage.
Finally earning round MVP takes determination. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Visit knowhowtogo.org to learn what you should be doing right now to prepare for college. Start taking the steps at knowhowtogo.org. Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okie doke, we're back. There was a piece in the Post-Gazette that I didn't read. It was an opinion piece that I'm assuming was written by an African-American that was titled, "Your Good Old Times, Not Mine." And I didn't read it. Maybe some of you did. And I'm just going to assume, because of a letter that was written after it appeared, that this is about, the times that some people pine for, the good old 50s or something. And how, well, you might think of the 50s when women knew their place and schools were good and everything functioned and we just were happy as clams and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's obviously again, it's not a historically accurate memory. It's, and if you were a black American, the 50s, I mean, come on. I guess there's something in this letter that surprises me, and I know it's true, but I'm confused. Somebody has written a letter, John Keptner of Greentree, and he says that was a sad opinion piece. And then he says this: when I moved to Pittsburgh in 1958, if memory serves me correctly, there were 2 swimming pools in South Park. One for blacks and the other for whites. At the age of 16, and moving here from a small town in Ohio, this was my introduction to the ugliness of racism. Okay, so this is a guy who says 1958 he comes to Pittsburgh, and in Pittsburgh, blacks are not allowed in the same pool with whites. They're separate pools. My sense always was that kind of separate facilities, drinking fountains, bathrooms, blacks in balconies, that was something that happened in the South. It's hard for me to, I didn't, so even up to the late 50s, early 60s, in Pittsburgh, black Pittsburghers were treated like second-class citizens, and I mean very openly, right? I mean, I've heard these stories, and this is the North, right? And it's confusing to me because it wasn't necessarily the case everywhere. Was it? How did so many northern cities, and help me here, because, I spent a lot of time in Chicago as a child in the 50s. I don't have this memory of that kind of segregation. I know the stories of black people, not even being able to go into like some of the department stores here and try on clothes. Is that true? Yeah, it's true. Did blacks have to ride in the back of the bus here? If the authorities in their wisdom built 2 pools so that whites wouldn't have to swim with black people, black kids. And that was going on as late as 1958. How late did it go? You guys who lived here. I came in January of 81. And even in January of 81, I was astonished at the open racism here. But we'd already moved beyond that. And I think, what is it? Is Pittsburgh more of a racist? Was it more racist than some other northern cities? I'm just asking. I grew up in a totally lily white little town. So I have nothing to compare this with. Although, as I said, spent a lot of time in Chicago, and I don't recall that level of segregation. But then, again, we weren't paying much attention. If you were white. So, I'm just asking, is that, no one's going to help me here? Come on, some of you are old enough. I can't be the oldest one in the room. Remind me what it was like in the 50s in Pittsburgh, and what was accepted as perfectly reasonable behavior and exclusion of African Americans. That's the blink of an eye. And then, of course, we have a Supreme Court Chief Justice now who thinks we're in a post-racial America. Nowhere near enough time has passed. Nowhere near enough time. And so if you're wondering how many people are freaked out about this black guy in the White House, and they don't even know that's what it is, but they fear him, they hate him, it's irrational. Well, I would suggest that if you grew up, if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and you grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that your idea of black people was that they were second class, and you didn't mix with them. I think I keep saying, we need some generations literally to die off. Literally to die off. Because they came of age in a terrible time. It's the time that so many Republicans long to go back to. But it was a time that we should feel just unbelievable shame. Shame. Somebody sending me something about madness, more madness in Wisconsin. Oh, listen, My poor home state is in the grips of these yahoos. You think Governor Walker, see, he survived that recall attempt, and he and the Republican legislature there are going gangbusters. They're closing down every abortion clinic in the state. There's nowhere to get an abortion in Green Bay anymore. A woman would have to travel to Milwaukee, I guess, and if she lives anywhere, I mean, that's a big state. Anything, there's more than half the state is to the north of Green Bay. There's nowhere where a woman can get an abortion. And that was in one of the most progressive states in the country not too long ago. Amazing. So I don't know, but no, I'm being sent something about an armed a raid on something. These people they're out of their cotton picking minds. Do you see what the the crazies in the House, the Republicans, are intent on doing? They really are going to push. Through sequestration, they've already managed to harm the most vulnerable people, the elderly, children, the poor. People and demographics that rely most of all on a safety net. And a safety net is something that these Republicans do not believe should exist. They don't believe in safety nets. They think it coddles people. They think people take advantage. They seem to think that people enjoy living on the edge, and that they love not knowing where their next meal is going to come from. Yeah. So they have unveiled their latest plan to change the food stamp program, and this one is it just keeps getting worse. They keep coming up with, just when you think, oh my God, are they off their rockers? They ratchet it up. They are now suggesting cuts to the food stamp program that are nearly double what they first suggested in June. In June. They think all those hungry little kids are lying. They are considering new requirements that would have to do with work. If you're not working, you can't get any food stamps. Of course, the fact that our economy is in a still struggling state in regard to jobs, it makes a lot of sense to not only take the safety net away from all of these unemployed people, but then to deny them food assistance because they're unemployed, and to tell them they have to have a job. Well, of course they want a job. They've ended up hungry because they don't have one. Okay, they are also, in this latest measure, they will now, the Republicans are saying, we're going to cut the hell out of it, and we're going to let the states, if they want to, drug test these people before they can get food stamps. What is this? What is this absolute inability that so many Republicans have to acknowledge the realities of poverty, and that it has nothing to do with morality? You're not poor because you're somehow lacking in the proper character. And God knows you ain't rich because you have exemplary character. They don't have anything to do with each other. The hardest working people in this country are poor people. Why don't they know that? They don't know anybody who works 2-3 jobs? And they're still poor? I do. I do. They're just despicable. I'm sorry. I know I should have ended on a proper note. But what are we going to do with them? You know, I look at the Wall Street Journal, and I think of people reading that are, you know, educated. And their editorial pages are just filled with still that all they're talking about is, I'm serious, still Benghazi, the terrible scandal at the IRS, these attempts to create scandal when even the facts clearly pull the rug out from under their case. They don't stop. They just double down. And I don't know, you know, like what Lincoln said, you can't have the country cannot survive half slave, half free. Well, I don't think this country can survive half in one world and half in another. Half with one set of reality and half with another. And of course, I'm going to argue that my half is the saner half. And when you're dealing with this other side that disregards fact, I think it's scary. And that won't govern. I think that's scary. And that won't allow the government to function. I do think that's scary. I've lived through a lot of dysfunction in government. I don't think I've ever seen this. We've never before had so many people in the apparatus of government who actively sought to be there, who are there only to destroy it. I think it's scary. And you know what? I'm not going to think about that again until Monday. I'm not. So, thank you. Sorry I meandered and got depressed. Oh, here, finally, I'm getting someone telling me about Pittsburgh in the 50s. Why so late? Okay, I lived on the north side as a child and really don't remember there being too many blacks there when I was a child. I do remember that in the early 70s that blacks were not accepted on Troy Hill. In the 70s? I don't think we thought to... Well, listen, Jews weren't accepted in Mount Lebanon in the 60s or 50s.
Really?
Yes, really. God. I don't think we thought too much of how blacks were treated because they were not in our school or neighborhood. When I was in high school, we had a few blacks in our school, but I don't think they were treated any differently than anyone else. We used to sit at the same lunch table or on the same bus. Okay. Well, okay, that's one memory, and I thank you for it. Donna writes, I am of an age that would not remember it all. I was in grade school in the late 50s. Yeah, me too. Our greatest resource allowed us to maintain a certain racism. Our neighborhoods allowed us to maintain racism. Black people, then known as Negroes, lived in Homewood and the Hill. I lived in Greenfield. I did not associate with blacks until high school, when overcrowding at Westinghouse and Fifth Avenue High forced busing to Alderdice. Our major racism was Jewish versus Catholic, not black versus white. It was less, in my mind and location, racism than lack of contact that made people afraid. Well, I agree with you. That's why segregation was so awful. Segregation begot fear, begot prejudice, begot violence, begot hate. And Gigi writes, I recall my parents talking about segregation in Pittsburgh, with one city pool having different hours for whites and blacks. I think this persisted into the late 50s. I grew up in the 60s and don't recall this segregation personally. Wow. Thank you for all of that. I appreciate it. Telling you, you grow up in that kind of reality, and a lot of that stuff sticks. And a lot of those people are still passing on their screwed up ideas to children and grandchildren. People need to die. And on that happy note, thank you all very much. Next week, we'll do it again. Have a great weekend.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.